Devin McCourty is brought to you this week by the Top Defense. If you've been injured, Catches Law Group. At Catches, you pay nothing unless they win. They are the official law firm of the New England Patriots, and Devin McCourty joins us this morning on the Harbor One hotline. Happy New Year, Dev.
Happy New Year, man. Everybody's back today?
We're all back. Even Wiggy. Wiggy took the day off yesterday, but everybody's here, and great to talk to you. How are your holidays? Everything good?
Yeah, everything was awesome. First time being back home with a lot of family in a while, so it was really good.
Curtis and Courtney both in their lead talked this morning about Jerod Mayo, and I agree with Curtis. I like the way he addressed the report that he was rubbing some people the wrong way over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he hit it right on the head, with being a leader. I agree 100%. Like, if everybody likes you and you're a leader, you probably have no idea, but you're not really leading anyone. Everyone's just doing what they want. And I think when you actually break down what the Patriots are over the last, 25 years, I think Bill has always been that. He's been that guy that, at times you can love him, at times you can hate him. When you're in that locker room, you could be pissed about things, but at the end of the day, it's always to get better. And I think that's why Mayo's back on the staff after not being in football. That's why he was brought back. I think that's why when he was there, he was a captain, he was a leader, because he understands what leadership is. And I've said it to so many different people. I think he's one of the best leaders of men that I've been around, not just in sports. He left and worked in business and did an awesome job at that. I just think Mayo's a natural-born leader. So I'm not really surprised by what he said and how he's going to continue to carry himself, because he knows, I think, the effect he has and the impact he has. He's not going to be worried about some story that leaks or whatever. He's going to always kind of look in the mirror and see how he can be better and go off of that.
Dev, when you look at Mayo, and if he is the guy moving forward, it just seems like a lot of coaches, they generally – have guys on their coaching tree that they're familiar with, they've coached with before. If Mayo is the guy, what can we expect his coaching tree, especially from the offensive side and more so the offensive coordinator standpoint, to be? Because I feel like it's going to be more of a Josh McDaniels, maybe even Billy O'Brien, guys that he's been around.
I don't know, man. I believe that when he first got into this, he knew his ultimate goal was to be a head coach, and, whether that was in New England or anywhere in the NFL. So I think he probably has some kind of idea, and I think he's probably throughout, the 5 or 6 years he's been in coaching, I think he's probably put together a list. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think it has to stay within this tree of, the New England Patriots, Billy O or Josh McDaniels. I don't know if it has to. I think he's probably thought about this, and I'm not saying like for this year, like I don't want people to think like he's always been playing it. No, I think like as a coach, when you get into coaching, it's the same thing as a player. If you're not a starter, you got to prepare and plan for what you're going to do when you're a starter. And I think Mayo's probably compiled a list of different people he's met either at coaching clinics or at the comp. Like I think he's probably thought about this and has an idea. So I don't necessarily know if it stays in the tree. I think it could also go outside of the tree of, when he watches film, or there's some offenses that he likes when he watches and sees what they do. I think that could be a part of, whenever he becomes a head coach that he goes and looks for.
Devin, another guy who's been in headlines recently, there have been reports about Trent Brown and his absence from playing being because he doesn't have the buy-in. He lacked buy-in for this team following the injury that he suffered in the middle of the season, and that's led to him missing out on incentives. I know Matthew Slater came out saying, he's a great leader in this locker room and he's a great player. You've played with him. Do you see that from him this season, that he's lacking a buy-in? Do you think he's the type of player that this could happen to?
I always want to be careful saying buy-in when you're not in the locker room and with a team day in and day out, because if somebody shows up to work, and they do what they're supposed to do, then to me they're bought in. Like, everyone doesn't have to be, laughing and joking. Like, you just got to come and do your job. That's basically what it's predicated on. So I think for Trent, whatever is happening, it's not working out between him or the team for a guy of his talent and level of play that he's been able to be at. And I would say especially this year, it felt like he was playing really good ball. And I know the injuries have kind of changed that a little bit of not being out there. But anytime, like, if Trent Brown's a healthy scratch, like, it's off between him and the team, like, whatever you want to call it, it's not working. I think we live in a world where when that happens, we automatically think, like, all right, this player is not bought in. You know, like, I think with Jair Alexander in Green Bay, like, he goes to the coin toss. It's a very weird thing to do when you're not a captain, and then he gets suspended. It's like, well, dang, they really met. No, there's more going on to that between the player and the team. And I think, you know, for Trent being a healthy scratch, obviously it's not right, but I don't know exactly who's to blame in the situation. But, you know, you can't just say, oh, yeah, man, that just happened. No, like, that's a big deal when a guy like him doesn't play in a game.
Speaking of Slater, is Sunday the last one for your guy?
I don't know, man. I'm planning on it, but, you know, I think ultimately that's his decision to make. I think a lot of times you can feel like it's the end. I kind of felt like it was the end for me last year, but it still took some time to make that final decision. So I've talked to him, and, you know, he's one of my closest friends and a guy I feel very fortunate to, you know, not only just share the field with him for 13 years, but to also, you know, be mentioned in the same sentence as him. You know, obviously what his dad was able to do in the league, but, you know, him as a leader, you talk about leadership and helping men be better men. Like, there's no guy that I would rather, you know, be sharing a team with, go to dinner with, hang out with. Like, he's one of those special people that I got to be around. So if it is, I hope that stadium's packed with a lot of love, a lot of energy for what he brought to that team for 16 years, because there'll never be anybody like him ever to walk in that building. So I hope they do send him out the right way if it is indeed his last game.
Devin, speaking of feeling like the end, is that what Sunday feels like for Bill with the Patriots to you?
It doesn't, man. I do. I think a month ago we were all kind of writing this story about what's happening next. But I think as you look at this team, I think a lot of times people always talk about they want to see, you know, from an ownership standpoint, they want to see their team progress, right? When they fire coaches in the middle of the year, they say, well, we just looked at the team and it just doesn't look like it's progressing or it's getting better. And when you look at the Patriots, I mean, it looks like it's getting better. Like, you can't say that it doesn't. I think the way this team has played, this defense has even gotten better while losing key pieces. The offense has gotten better, even though the turnovers killed them last week. But you look at that game, like, they're close to beating Buffalo, and if Buffalo goes and beats Miami this week, they're going to win the division. So I think it's really hard to move on from a guy, obviously, of what he's done. But, I mean, I would say even what he's done this year of getting that team going and turned around. I think, obviously, when you don't win and you're going to have a top-5 pick, there's going to be changes. Like, you definitely need to do some things differently than they did this year. But I think it's going to be really hard. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but if you ask me right now, sitting at this point, I don't feel like you walk away from the season and say, hey, if we just replace our head coach, we'll be better. I think that would be a really hard statement to make.
Do you think if Belichick does come back next year that Mayo would go elsewhere?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think if a head coaching opportunity comes his way, I said it earlier this year when somebody asked me about him taking over in New England. I think it might have been on here, and I said you can't turn down those jobs. Like, they're very limited. So yeah, I think if a head coaching opportunity comes his way, whether that's in New England, whether that's elsewhere, like, I just don't see him saying, like, no, I'm good, I'll pass on that. You know, I just think for any assistant coach, when you get that opportunity, you got to run with it, learn. We've seen so many different coaches, you know, have a job one place, get fired, and end up somewhere else. And they talk about how much they learned the first time and how much they got better. So I don't think you can turn down any opportunity to run an organization.
Dev, do you think that, like, Mayo, if Bill is to come back, do you think he wants to go somewhere else as, let's say, a defense coordinator, a true D coordinator, where it's his title, then he can kind of go the route of DeMeco Ryans, where now he can get a real shot where it's almost like, is he always going to be under Bill's shadow
until he goes somewhere else?
Yeah, until he goes somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always a possibility. I think that's for any coach that coaches under Bill, because you just don't get the credit. You know, I think the same thing with like Andy Reid and Bieniemy. Like Bieniemy didn't get any credit for being in Kansas City until he left, and then we watched Kansas City's offense, and now we're like, oh, well, maybe Bieniemy was, you know, really helping that team and helping calling plays and putting a plan together. So I think there's an element of that, but I also think there's a lot that goes into going and leaving. Like, he has a family, he has kids, so I think he has to ultimately make that decision. If he thinks leaving will get him exactly where he wants to be, then I think, yeah, there's a chance. But I think if he says, like, hey, do I really want to uproot my family and do all of that just to kind of have the same role I have right now, when I think a lot of people within the NFL knows what he brings. I think he interviewed, after his, like, second or third year in the coaching and impressed people already. So I think his stock hasn't done anything but increase. So I don't necessarily think he has to do that. But I think he would have to make that decision if he felt like it was the best way to be a head coach someday.
When talking about Rodney Harrison the other day, Bill revealed 5 of his all-time team members. Has he told you whether you're on there or not?
No, but one of the things I thought was ridiculous is Bill talks about Rodney and gives Rodney his well-due praise. And I got people tweeting me like, damn, Bill said that Rodney's his favorite safety. And I'm like, man, because he is. Like, Rodney was a hell of a player. He's freaking in the 30-30 club, 30 sacks, 30 interceptions. And I'm like, why wouldn't we take the chance to give this guy his due praise? Should have been in the Hall of Fame. Instead, we talk about me, who has nothing to do with this. But I think it was awesome. Like, Rodney is well-deserved, obviously, being at NBC now, getting a chance to work with him and see him do that other element of, you know, sports broadcasting. But it was really cool even being at the Hall of Fame this year and watching Rondé Barber go in. And the only other person on any list with Rondé Barber for sacks and interceptions is Rodney. So hopefully this is the year he goes in. But, you know, yeah, I saw the all-time team with, you know, some of the greatest players to ever play the game. So it's pretty cool for me just to say I played with a handful of those guys and I got coached by Bill. It's plenty enough for me for a guy who couldn't even get an offer from Boston College. I ended up getting to play in New England for all 13 years.
That was a ricochet shot, but
oh, sorry, Courtney. I forgot we beat up on Boston College.
Devin, knowing Bill Belichick, if he is still here next season, and that's the plan, going into the game against the Jets, is it in the back of his mind that if they win or lose this game on Sunday, it's going to affect their draft pick kind of drastically?
Yeah, I saw people ask him about it. I really don't think he thinks about that. I think he knows the possibilities of what it can be, but I think he has way too much respect for, like, watching what guys do day in and day out to say, let me plan to get a better draft pick for next year. I think he feels like that's a slap in the face for guys that are going out there playing, you know, with torn ligaments, going out there and just giving it their all. You know, I think he would feel terrible looking at Matt Slater in his eyes and saying, I'm not giving it my all, and this could be your last game after you've come out here and had double shoulder surgery after seasons. You've gone out here and played through different things and given me all of your energy. I just don't think Bill's wired that way to look at, you know, the team for next year and not care about the team he's currently coaching. I know, like, when people hear him say that, it sounds like, yeah, that's the right thing to say. But I think he truly believes that because he's grown up in football. He grew up in football, watching his dad at the Naval Academy, coaching for such a long time. Like, he knows what it means to go out there and give it your best. And he knows what it means to probably watch staffs that didn't do that and you know, how terrible that is. So I do think that the team goes out there and probably beats the Jets. For one, he's not gonna want to lose to the Jets anyway. So I think it will be a game where they go out there and win. So I'm sure a lot of the fan base won't be happy about it.
Nah, we don't want that.
He might not be wired that way, but is Robert Kraft wired that way?
I mean, how's he going to impact it? You can't walk into a locker room and tell guys like, hey, we want to lose today. Like, my brother played in Cleveland for that year. They went 0-16, and guys in the locker room are playing their hearts out, but because it was so messed up upstairs in their front office where they were trying to lose, I think it made it so hard, and you saw the fallout from that with Hugh Jackson, him saying that, they wanted him to, like, that's just a terrible stain. And, for Cleveland, like, I think once you start losing, look how long it took for them to get out of the hole of all of that losing. You never want to create that atmosphere, I think, in your organization. You want to have a winning attitude in everything you do, even if you're not winning the games that you want to win. I do think you want to have that winning culture that every time we step on the field, everything we do in the offseason is built on trying to win. And I think New England has done that. And I think it's hard to just turn off for anybody.
Stop Mac Jones. You lose.
You can start Mac Jones. All right. Well, Devin, thanks for taking the time. As always, really good stuff. Are you on throughout the playoffs? I don't know the schedule. Are you this is not our last time that we're talking to you, right?
Yeah, no, I got wild card and division, but man, I'm on for however long you guys need me.
All right, we'll get all
Let
year.
me know.
We'll just keep it going all year. We might not be able to pay you, but we'll just keep it going.
Well, what are we going to talk about in the off season? We're going to just bring up these topics. Well, we can talk, Courtney. We could talk Boston College and Rutgers and see who's going to be better.
Big bowl game win for BC. I don't know if you saw that. Ranked opponent.
No, I was too concentrated on Rutgers beating Miami in the bowl game.